Now we will move on to part B of exercise 1C number 2. And this is the problem that we need to do. Solving this inequality. Okay. So this is in connection to part A. So this is what we have done so far earlier for part A. This is our answer. So we can use this to do part B. Right. So solving this inequality, how is it connected to the graph? So if you will notice, absolute value of 2x minus 1, the left side of the inequality, again, is our V graph that opens upwards. While the right side of the inequality is the V graph that opens downwards in our sketch. Okay. So we want to get that this V up graph, not V up, the V graph that opens downwards, and this is the V graph that opens downwards. So basically, this means that this graph is greater than this graph. So what does that mean? Please look at this part of the graph. This part. So from point A going to the left of the graph. You notice that there are two lines here. This line and this line. This line is above the other line. And this line is coming from the graph of the absolute value of 2x minus 1. It's coming from your V graph opening upward. While this is coming from the V graph that opens downwards. So this satisfies the inequality that we want to solve. So by greater, it means above. Like what we see here. This is above. Is there any other part of the sketch which shows the same thing? Yeah, this part of the graph from here. So from point B going to the right. As you can see, there are two lines again. This line, this extends, and this line. So this line here is part of your V opening upward, while this line here is part of the V opening downward. And again, this is above this line. So again, this satisfies the inequality. So when we say solve, we are finding the values of x. The values of x in those two parts of the sketch. Why values of x? Because your inequality is in terms of x. So to solve this inequality, it means to find the values of x in these two parts of the graph. This goes on and on to the right. So from this number, the x-coordinate of B, and then all the numbers to its right, and also this number, the x-coordinate of A, and all the values of x to its left. So those are the numbers that will solve the inequality. So the question now is, how do we find those numbers? How do we find those values of x? Okay, by finding first the x-coordinates of A and B. Okay, so how do we find these x-coordinates? So let's start with the graph, the V graph opening upward, which is 2x minus 1. 2x, absolute value of 2x minus 1 has two interpretations. When 2x minus 1 is positive, when this 2x minus 1 inside the absolute value is positive, and the other is when the 2x minus 1 inside the absolute value is negative. So these are the two interpretations. So we need to find the values of x for each of these conditions. So how do we do that? If we look at the graph, the V opening upward has a vertex at half, x equals to half. And the vertex divides the V graph into two parts, right? Right and left. Okay, so which part of this is this one? Okay, how do we know? We check. Okay, let's use 1. 1 is to the right of 1 half. So if I use 1, I put it in here. What will be the value of 2x minus 1? So 2 times 1, I'm using x equals to 1 to test. So 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1. So it's positive 1. The value of 2x minus 1 is positive. So that is this. 2x minus 1 is positive when x is 1. And 1 is to the right of half. So it's greater than half. So we say that we will get a positive value for 2x minus 1 if x is greater than half. An example is 1, right? Okay. And then, of course, this will happen when x is not. It's not greater but less than half. We usually put the equal to in the greater. Okay. So there. So we also do the same for the other absolute value function. Okay? The V opening downwards, which is your 4 minus absolute value of x minus 1. These two has two interpretations. 4 minus x minus 1 being positive, when x minus 1 is positive, and the other is when minus your x minus 1 is negative. There you go. Again, this has two interpretations, when x minus 1 is positive and when x minus 1 is negative, because x minus 1 is inside the absolute value. So just like what we did in the 2x minus 1, we have to find which part of the graph is this, which part of the graph is this. So let's look at the graph again. This is the graph of 4 minus absolute value of x minus 1, and this is the vertex. At the vertex, x is 1. So we need to know, is it the left side or the right side? So we used a number to check. Okay, since 1 is the vertex, we use a number to the right of 1. We use 2. Let's try 2.